All right, we're going to review just a touch of what we did last week, especially if you weren't here. And then we'll talk, then we'll go ahead. We said we're talking about mandala offerings. We talked about 4 different kinds of mandala offerings that there are. Do you remember what they are? Chi. No. Chi. Chi means what? Outer mandala. Then Nang, inner mandala. Samwa, which means secret mandala. Dekonani, which means emptiness mandala. Okay. We, in this class, are going to cover primarily the first one, the outer mandala. And then the commentary, which we're studying a commentary from the 1700s. The person was born about the time of the Revolution, the American Revolution. We're going to be concentrating on the outer mandala. Outer mandala, I'll show you later, but you do it with a special plate and you pour certain grains on it, or if you have the mullah, you use gold dust or diamonds, but you make little piles on this plate, this metal plate, and they represent different parts of the universe. So we were pretty well into the world according to Abhidharma. Okay, this presentation of the geography of the world and of the universe comes from the Abhidharma Kosha, 3rd chapter, written about the 4th century by Vasubandhu. So we've gotten pretty much through that, and we're ready to start pouring actual piles. We just got to pile number 1. And I'll review a little bit of what was going on. But what do you do first with the mandala plate?
Saffron oil?
Yeah, well, that's another story, yeah. But like this.
Okay.
And we also didn't talk, I wanted to talk a little bit about, the occasions on which you offer a mandala in practice. From my own experience living part of the time in Tibetan monastery, when is it that people do a mandala offering nowadays? And when is an appropriate time? And what are the functions of a mandala offering in that sense, which is not covered in this text? There are a lot of different kinds of mandalas. You can divide the outer mandala into mandalas which are meant to be an offering to another being. And that was the one we were mentioning, like when you offer your lama, your root lama, especially the universe, on a plate, on a silver platter, right? And that's one kind of offering. Another kind of offering mandala is in order to get some kind of blessings from your lama. So the person to whom you're offering it, it's almost like a bribe. You're offering a mandala which represents all the wealth of the universe in order to get something from them. You want to get some kind of blessing from them. We spent a lot of time in these classes debunking the idea that anyone could change your karma. Okay? We spent a lot of time in these classes, and the first Dalai Lama, in his commentary to Abhidharma Kosha, in the opening pages, he says, Buddha doesn't help you by touching you on the head. Buddha can't sprinkle water on you and all your bad deeds go away. Buddha cannot reach into his heart, take out what he knows, and insert it in your mind. And because if they could have, and they can't take your cancer away or something like that. They don't have this ability. If they could do that, they would have done it a long time ago, and nobody would get cancer, nobody would be in a car wreck, nobody would ever have anything bad happen to them. Because the Buddhas are not mean, and they're not sadistic. If you have a problem and they could just take it away with their hands, they certainly would have done it a long time ago. So that proves that they can't. The only way that a Buddha can affect you primarily, and the main function of a Buddha, as we know a Buddha, is to come into this planet and teach. And then based on that teaching, you undertake some kind of good deeds, and then your karma improves, and ultimately you get free of suffering that way. So what does it mean, to offer a mandala offering to some lama because you want to get some blessing from them? I mean, how can that lama bless you? Isn't that this thing that the first Dalai Lama was saying is impossible? Are you going to offer this mandala and wish for a Cadillac, and then the Lama's gonna, give you a Cadillac. I mean, can that happen? Or even if you're wishing for some kind of spiritual goals, like you're offering this mandala and praying from the bottom of your heart that you are able to generate compassion, or you're able to reach a state of compassion, can a Lama do anything to you? I mean, when you go to the Dalai Lama and you pass by his throne in a line of 3,000 people, and he bangs you on the head, and the guy pushes you out of the way, and you're waiting for the next guy, can he do anything for you? Because if he can, wouldn't he have done it a long time ago? And why would you have to pay him with a mandala offering to get it? I mean, wouldn't he naturally do it out of the love of his heart, And Buddhas don't need to be in contact with you. I mean, can't they emanate as your spouse and bang you on the head when you're coming out of the bathroom or something and give you a blessing that way? I mean, why do you have to go through this mandala offering? And this applies a lot to this is a very important principle behind the very highest teachings of Buddhism. The act of offering a mandala is an act of faith, meaning, and in Buddhism, faith means advanced intelligence. You logically understand that there logically could exist beings who have perfected themselves, whose mental continuum is evolved to a state of perfection. And you know that you can't see them. Like I can't say, oh, I see a Buddha up there 20 feet off the exit sign there. I mean, I can't say that. I'm not at a level where if a Buddha walked in the room, I could perhaps even recognize that Buddha as being a Buddha. So when you're offering a mandala, you're making a statement. And when you make any kind of offering, when you do your water bowls in the morning, or when you put flowers on an altar, you're making a statement, which is that logically, intellectually, I understand that there is such a thing as an enlightened being. And I'm putting out these flowers for you. And I can't see you right now. I understand that there should exist a being like you. I can't honestly say I've seen you. And I can't actually say with direct experience that you even exist. And nobody in this room, well, who knows? But you can't say, do Buddhas really exist? Have you met a Buddha? Have you seen the historical Buddha? We have records of this being walked on the planet, but you don't have a lot of proof that this being even exists. So making a mandala offering is a statement. And the more advanced your practice gets, the more of a statement it is that you believe or you understand that these beings exist and you're making this offering to them. Also, that you're making a statement that you understand what a lama is, and that you're making this offering to a being who can perceive what you're doing and can perceive your thoughts. And so what's the point? How can they bless you? We still didn't get to that. I mean, classically, you're offering a mandala offering to get a blessing. Yeah.
If you have the karma to see yourself being blessed.
Yeah, that's true. She said, if you have the karma to see yourself being blessed, you'll be blessed. That's true. That's the nature of all blessings. That's the nature of having a cup of coffee, is that you have the karma to see yourself having a cup of coffee. But how did that karma come to be? And in the highest teachings of Buddhism, and in the offering of mandala, it's the karma of offering it that's the blessing. Okay? It's the karma. There is no such thing as an externally existing independent blessing. The Dalai Lama cannot hit you on the head and bless you. It doesn't work. But if at that moment you have a certain, what we call semba, which is the essence of karma. What's the fourth chapter of the Abhidharma say? Lele jikta natoke, deni semba dandeche. Okay, deni semba means the essence of karma is thought, is motivation. Karma, in its rawest form, is thinking something. That's the essence of all karma. So just by wishing that this being could have this thing, you get a blessing, because you're creating mental karma. By that faith and by that action of love for that being, you are creating your own blessing, is what I'm trying to say. They can't give you any blessing like that. It doesn't work. They can't from their side give you any blessing. The karma of offering it is creating the blessing. So the better you concentrate while you're giving the offering, the greater the blessing will be. And the more you are able to visualize that mandala properly and endow it with sacred characteristics, then you will get a sacred blessing. And if your mind is just wandering and you're just repeating some ritual that you've done 1,000 times before, you'll get exactly that kind of karma. You'll get some very wimpy, watered down karma because you were there and you said the words. But unless you picture that as the universe, and then unless you intend, there'll be a step later where after you picture it as the universe, you transform it to a paradise before you offer it. That's very important. So you're not just offering a bunch of little rice grains scattered on a piece of metal. You're offering the universe, and before you offer the universe, you are transforming it into a perfect Buddha paradise. And then you're offering it. And then the karma from that, the thought, the intention, and the visualization, if it's done strongly, creates the blessing, and you do get a blessing. So somebody like Jetsun Kappa, greatest Tibetan philosopher of all time, understood everything about emptiness. He was constantly doing these stupid mandala offerings. He spent about half his life just asking for blessings. And you can read that in his biography as soon as Marge finishes it. But he spent about half his time. Ul got very famous. He was sitting there doing mandala offerings. So that's two functions of two occasions so far. One is when you want to make an offering to that other being. One is when you want to bribe them for some kind of blessing. Okay, then I'll mention some other cases. As we do the mandala offering that you're about to continue learning, if you dump it one way or you dump it the other way at the end, it changes the meaning. Okay, if you dump it, by the way, we're going to be doing the mandala offering, which relates to getting a blessing, because I think we all could use it. Okay, and that's the classic one that you do when you do the 37-pile mandala offering. When any of you has ever done up to now what we call the long mandala offering, you've been doing the one for blessing, as opposed to the one for offering. Okay? And then depending on which way you dump it at the end, it has a different significance. When you dump it in towards you, it's for receiving that blessing. When you dump it outwards at the end, it represents clearing away obstacles in this case. Okay? So those are the occasions when you do mandala offerings. During a class, and especially during an initiation, there are often mandala offerings. The first one is called a yungi mandala, and that's a bribe to get a class. A Buddhist is not allowed to teach another person Buddhism unless they've been requested clearly 3 times to teach. Okay? We're not allowed to proselytize. We're not allowed to bother other people. Unless you are definitely convinced that the other person would benefit and would like to hear about Buddhism from you, but they don't know to ask you, except in that case, you're not allowed to bother them and say, oh, here, become a Buddhist. You're not allowed to proselytize, bother people that way. You have to be requested 3 times. The first 2 times you're supposed to say you don't know anything. Okay, and the 3rd time you can pretend you do know something. Okay, but it's a tradition not to teach someone unless they ask, and then a lot of other conditions. They have to have the proper respect for that teaching. They have to be in the right frame of mind. They have to be prepared for that teaching. They have to have the intellect to understand that teaching. A lot of other requirements. But basically, before a class, when you do that little mandala offering, that is your formal request that the teacher teach, in case you didn't know. Okay, and that's why we do it before class. The teacher cannot teach unless you are formally requesting. And that's called a yungi mandala. Before an initiation, for an example, that's requesting the initiation. There's another mandala at the end, which is called Tangrak mandala. And that's a mandala of thanksgiving. And normally, let's say, for example, we just had in North Carolina, we did Bodhisattva vow ceremony, and people took Bodhisattva vows. At the end of the ceremony, you do a mandala offering, which is called a Tangrak, means thanksgiving mandala. And the student and the person who gave the vows, they both share a mandala. They both do a mandala to thank all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the world for letting this teaching these teachings so that they could be passed on and that the people in that room could take bodhisattva vows that day. So that's another example of a mandala offering, outer mandala offering. There's a very common one in the monastery where you are offering a mandala to a lama to request them to stay for a long life, request them to stay alive as long as possible. And that's called a tensum mandalche. When you offer that. And that's very common in the monastery. You might see them, they lift the representations of the Buddha's body, speech, and mind to their head, and then they offer a mandala plate. So you'll see them offer a book and a stupa and a Buddha image to the Lama to request them to stay for a long life. There's a very important practice called the preliminary practices where you do certain virtuous activities 100,000 times each in preparation for some other great activities, and one of those is a mandala offering. So you have a mandala offering called a Mundur mandala, where you offer a mandala 100,000 times. It takes a while. Okay, those are the occasions on which you would make a mandala offering. Okay, so we're going to go. We start out, this is your visualization, okay? It's important to get the visualization right. And then when you get that down, you can transform it into a Buddha paradise. But you have to get the visualization right. Okay? So we're going to go over the steps of the 37-part mandala. 37 part means it involves 37 little piles. I couldn't find any commentary which clearly explained which piles are 37. But I found like 5-6 commentaries in our computer database, and it's pretty clear which ones they are. So it's like this. You're starting out visualizing a kinkor. Kinkor means a disc. What's the Sanskrit word for kinkor? Mandala. Okay. So kinkor is the Tibetan word for mandala, and it comes, in this case, it means disc. So you are picturing a gigantic disc, which is what do they call it in physics? Big Bang. This is the first step in the formation of the universe, is some kind of a cosmic energy that starts building up in a very huge cyclone of energy. And this is called the mandala of wind. How thick is it? I cheated, I peeked. What? 7 million miles thick. Okay, and cross from here to here? 4.5 times 10 with 60 zeros, okay? Whatever that is. Yeah.
Million miles or just miles after that number?
Miles after that number. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Then you picture a much smaller disk here, and it has two components. The lower component is what? Oh, by the way, what color is this disc?
Blue.
The big one is blue because that is a blue tint that's imparted by the energy called wind. Okay. And for example, when you have a lung disease, a wind disease, and you look at a snow mountain, you see a blue tint, for example. And that's supposed to be because of the effect of the lung on your sense organs. Okay. Down here, water. I said white. The Tibetan word for clear is the same as the Tibetan word for white in this case. So I'd say it's probably clear, although I can't tell which they intended. But I think it's clear. That's like how many million miles?
3.6.
Like 3.6 million miles thick. How much across? 11 million miles across. Okay. And then you have this part here, which is what?
Gold.
Yeah, gold color. 11 million miles across.
4.
1.4.
4 thick.
Yeah?
You said 1.4. Now you're.
Yeah. Okay, 1.4 million miles thick. Okay, you got that. Now I'm going to concentrate on this gold disc, okay? We're going to erase the rest. By the way, if you really did draw this disc up here, this size, this disc I think would reach California or something. Okay? I mean, the relative size is like that. You know, this disc is zillions of times bigger than this one. But we're trying to make it on a blackboard. Okay? And Robert Chilton reminded me of a story, and I read it today in the scripture again. There was this Tibetan monk who got upset with this teaching, and he said, I don't see how I'm expected to visualize something that's a zillion miles wide, you know. And his lama said, look into your teacup. You know, he looked into the teacup and he says, do you see any reflection there? I said, yeah. I said, what do you see? I said, I see the whole room. He says, no problem, the whole room fits in your teacup. So, you know, so what are you complaining about? And then he said, look at this needle. And he showed him a needle and he said, look through the eye of the needle. And he looks through the eye of the needle. He says, what do you see? He says, I see the whole Hassa Valley, you know. He says, no problem, Hassa Valley fits in the eye of a needle, you know. So what's the problem with the mandala offering, you know, zillion miles wide, fitting in your mind, you know, and you're mentally you're offering that. I like this Jimi Hendrix song where he says, standing next to a mountain and chop it down with the edge of my hand. I mean, it's that idea that you can be offering something which is trillions of miles, many trillions of miles wide, on this little thing in your hands. No problem. I mean, in fact, there's a stage in meditation called cell or bellweight cell where you have to practice that. You know, you practice yourself as being as big as the universe, and then you practice yourself, you know, being as big as a mouse, and then you practice yourself being a lice on top of the mouse, and you just practice in meditation different formats and different scopes, and you practice switching between them very quickly. When you get to like Bodhisattva level number 7, you can switch around like that. Every millisecond you can go from shamatha to vipassana and back and forth into meditative states like instant by instant. And you have to practice it. So mandala offering is not a bad place to start. You can take your time and do it slow. Okay, so we're on the disc of gold. Okay, and we had put on it there's supposed to be a great central mountain in the world. Well, actually, first we did the mountain around the side, right?
Right.
These are made of what?
Iron.
Okay. Does this place exist? We'll talk about it. Okay. Don't jump to any conclusions. And then in the middle there was what?
Mount Meru.
Mount Meru. Looks something like that. Okay. How high?
Right.
360,000 miles
Above the water.
above the water line and
360.
360 below the water line. Okay. And it had 7 concentric squares of mountains around it. These are called the 7 mountains of gold. And they have oceans between the mountains, between the concentric squares. There are oceans, freshwater oceans. Okay. Which are how deep? Never mind. 360,000 miles. Okay, by the way, if I drew Mount Meru to scale, again, you know, the thing would reach to California or something, you know. I mean, the disc is big. I'm just trying to get it on the board. Okay, think about your teacup. All right. Now we've reached, by the way, that was pile number 1, if anyone's keeping count. Somebody handed out a thing, it's kind of cool. You can track it.
Is that the big one in the center?
No, it's number 1. It's pile number 1.
Oh, all that is pile number 1.
Mount Meru is pile number 1.
Oh.
The pile you laid down for the gold ground doesn't count, apparently. Okay. It's a long story, okay? Doesn't seem to count.
So the Iron Mountains aren't number 1.
They don't count as number 1 either. The way I've been able to research it, I couldn't find it very clear, but as far as I've been able to research it, comparing it to the 23, the 25, the 9, the 7, and the 5, it's got to be something like this. Okay, so that's number 1. That's pile number 1. Pile number 2 is going to be here. Okay, and this is in the Great Outer Sea. There's this ocean that stretches from the edge of the last of the 7 golden mountains to the edge of the Iron Mountains. And by the way, if you're into it, if you've had the initiations, I forgot to mention, you're supposed to concentrate very fiercely that these iron mountains are made of Dayton Yisumepe Yeshe. So if you know what that is, try to do it. If you don't know what it is, don't worry about it. Okay, but this iron mountain is made of Dayton Yisumepe Yeshe, and the ocean represents the fact that the entire world is covered with that. You know, the water, which before we built up Mount Meru, it was covered with water, right? 80,000 pakse, yojana deep, 360,000 miles deep. The meaning of that water to a person who has that teaching is that the whole world is soaked in Deito Nisume Biyeshi. Okay? So if you know what it is, you have to concentrate on it like that. Then you build up this construct, and then we're going to start to, this area out here is a different kind of ocean. This is called the Great Outer Sea, and it's made of salt water. And there are 4, what they call continents. They've been translated as continent. The Sanskrit word is dvipa, which means divides the water, dvipa. And that's a Sanskrit word for a continent or an island. So there's going to be 4 continents or 4 islands in the Great Outer Sea between the last of the Golden Mountains and the encircling mountains of iron. And we're going to go through them starting from the east, okay? So when you make a mandala offering, I think I'll get out this little plate now. Now you get to see my Indian lunchbox plate. This is a typical mandala plate, okay? And we said, you remember that you have to have put some grain in your hand before you pick it up. You pick it up, you hold it in your left hand. Left hand is the stationary, and the right hand arm is doing all the work. The right hand is doing all the work, okay? And we said you started out by sprinkling some gold dust, right? For those of you who can afford it. You can give me some so I can do my offering properly. And you rub it off with your right forearm going out. And we explain the significance of that. Basically, it removes obstacles. Okay? And then you pour some more on it, and you bring the right forearm in, like that. Rub it hard, okay? Like that. Okay? And then it's just a custom, you put the rest, it's just sort of saying, okay, here's the golden ground. And then you put the first ring on it. We're trying to get these things from India, but they're almost impossible to get. So we're trying to get, hopefully, maybe by Christmas time, a bunch that we can give you, but I haven't been able to find. They're hard to find. This one Rinpoche made, I think. So you put that. What is that? Huh? Chichariko Yuki Korwe. Okay, that's the encircling mountain of iron. Okay, that's that one. And then according to Dharmabhadra's text, you just put a pile around clockwise to represent that. That doesn't count as one of the 37 piles, okay? But you're just putting it around once to represent that, okay? Then you do Mount Meru, Usu Ri Gyalbo Rirab. You can look at your text, okay? When you get to Usu, which means in the middle, Ri Gyalbo Rirab means king of all mountains, Mount Meru. And you dump it in the center, okay? That's the first sombu, that's the first pile in the mandala offering, of the 37. There was one wimpy pile in the middle, 360,000 miles high, okay? Now there's a trick on now we're up to where we got to last time. You have to visualize, if you're doing a mandala for the purpose of bribery, to get a blessing, you have to visualize east as the direction which is facing you. So the direction closest to me here is going to be east. And it doesn't matter what position you're really facing. I happen to be facing north, I guess, or something. But for purposes of the mandala, and for many other practices in Buddhism, you orient yourself with the east facing you. Okay, if I were going to be offering this if my main goal in the offering was to make an offering to the other being, I would start east over here, and it would all be backwards, and I would get very confused. I don't know about you. I have enough trouble with doing it one way. But Bokar Rinpoche says in his Lamrim, do it the way I'm about to tell you. And this is the way we always do it in the monastery, the way that Rinpoche does it, the way that everybody else does it. By the way, this mandala offering system came from, ultimately, Buddha, Kangbutse Peto, and then the 37 goes back, in Dharmabhadra's opinion, to Pakpa, who brought Buddhism to the Mongolians, mainly. And then there's a slight addition of 8 ladies that comes from a tantric tradition called Nyeonjorki Gyu. Okay? And that's how we get to 37. So anyway, east is facing you, and you say, what do we say? Shar Lupapo. I say Shar Lupapo. That's the first thing. Say Shar Lupapo. Shar Lupapo. And you dump some grain there. Okay? It should be like halfway between the center point and you, but it's a moot point because it's only about 2.5 inches, and wherever you dump it, it's going to spread out all over the place anyway. Okay? So I'm going to stop doing that. How do you visualize Lupakpo? First of all, I'll give you the meaning of the words. Shar means east. Shar means east. Tsongkhapa was sometimes called Shar Tsongkhapa. Why? He came from the east. He came from Kumbum. Okay. Shar also means for the sun to come up, so it's easy to remember. Okay. Shar Lupakpo. Lu means body. Pak means big. It means Arya also, but it just means anything bigger than normal is Pak. So Lupakpo means big body, great body. Okay. The beings who live on this continent, which by the way is not the continent we live on, are twice as big as humans on our continent. So their continent is called Lupakpo. Okay, great body, big body, Sha Lupakpo. By the way, we'll give you an English translation on the next class, which will be 2 weeks from tonight because next week is Thanksgiving weekend. So the last class will be 2 weeks from tonight, and we'll be able to finish by then. And Scott Bramlett is translating the commentary, so you'll get the whole commentary in a nice little notebook. That's a bribe to come to the last class, okay? So how do we visualize this particular continent? The text says a half moon shape with 3 sides of 2,000 yojana, which is 9,000 miles, and one side of, I forget. Let me see here. 3 and a... No. 350. So it's, and they say the short side faces the Iron Mountains. So it's something like this. It's really a shape like that. And the short side is facing the Iron Mountains. Okay. It's supposed to be a white color. So you're supposed to visualize it a white color. And the text says, don't just visualize a patch of white, what do you call this, trapezoid, Don't be lazy. It says, try to imagine a whole world populated by people who are twice as big as us and, trees twice as big. And, try to visualize something happening there. Don't just picture a flat piece of white, try not to do that. So that's Sha Lupakpo, and it's here. There'll be things going on that continent and above that continent that we'll get to later. So don't worry, there'll be something to visualize. Okay? So you say Sha Lupakpo. What's the next one? Say Hlo Zamboling. Hlo Zamboling. Okay, Zamboling is which way? If this is east, if we want to go to south, which way? Yeah, that way. Okay? So south is going to be over here. And it's almost the same shape. In the scriptures it says the shape of a cart. If you've seen a bullock cart in India, there's 2 big pieces of wood that come up. The back is kind of wide, and then 2 pieces of wood come up and fit around the bull's shoulders. So you have it's a shape like this. Okay, but this point is much smaller than this one. This is 350 yojana. You can multiply times 4.5 to get the miles, okay? And this one is only 3.5. So it's almost like a triangle. You can visualize a triangle. The color of this island is blue. Okay. In Sanskrit, it's called Jambudvipa. Dvipa meaning, again, that which divides the water, which means a continent. Zambu, Zambu sounds weird, and the Tibetans didn't translate it. They just said, this is Zambu. Okay? And if you read the scriptures, why it's called Zambu, there's this tree that grows on the edge of the water line and has these huge fruits. And when they fall in the ocean, they go, Zambu. I think you could call this Kerplop Island. So it's like Kerplop. Zambu means badum. It's the sound that fruit makes when it falls in the water. That's called a Zambu. Okay, so that's why it's Jambudvipa. It's a Zambuling in Tibetan, Zambuling. Okay, so that's how you visualize that one. How many piles we have so far? 3. Mount Meru was 1. Charlupapo was 2. Klot Zambuling was 3. Now we come to what? Say Nup. Palang Chut. Nup. Palang Chut. Nup means west. It's also the verb for setting the sun, the setting of the sun. So it makes sense, right? It also is the verb for the setting or the dying out of anything. Like the last page of the Abhidharma Kosha describes, it gives a timetable for the dying out of the Buddha's teaching in this planet. And that's called Nup. Okay, that's a Nup. Shape of it is circular. It's over here, right? It's down here. So this is the west. And you have to perceive of it as being circular. Its color is gold color, golden color. I think I've seen a scripture that said red, but this scripture says golden. Okay. Nup Balang Chut. They're called Balang Chut. Balang means cattle. Chut means use. And apparently they have a lot of cattle and they use them a lot. That's their main economy, is cows. So it's called Nup Balang Chut. Okay. Yeah.
What is a pile?
When I say pile, I mean one handful of rice that you're making a little pile on the mandala. Gold dust is a lot better. It kind of hangs together and, okay. Diamonds they fall all over the place. Okay, Nup Balang Chut. Then what's next? Say Chang. Daminyan. Chang. Daminyan. Daminyan is square. It's to the north. Chang means north. It's called Daminyan because, in general, human beings don't have a fixed lifespan. You can't say with certainty how long any of us will live. But on this particular continent, the beings there, the humans there, live a specific lifespan, 500 years. They always live to 500 years. They say it's a lousy continent for practicing Dharma. Because you know you're not going to die for 500 years, so you keep putting it off. Right? 7 days before they die, they hear a voice from the sky saying, why did you put it off? No. It says you're going to die. They hear some voices. They hallucinate. And they hear voices saying you're going to die in 7 days. There starts these hallucinations, these heavy-duty hallucinations. That's why this continent is called Daminyan. Daminyan means unpleasant sound. And it refers to those voices that they start to hear. They start to hallucinate and hear these voices. Okay. How many piles we have so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that was number 5. Chang Daminyan. Then what comes?
Yeah, what color?
Oh, what color? Yellow. Ay, yeah.
What color was Zambu?
Blue. Perhaps imparted by the color of Mount Meru on that side. I don't know. Anyway. Then what do you say? What's in your text next? Say Ludan, Lupak. Ludan, Lupak. It normally comes as one phrase. You say Ludan, Lupak. Ludan, Lupak. Okay, this is a little tricky, okay? You gotta watch. You set the next pile here. And then you go backwards and set the next pile here. Each continent has 2 subcontinents, okay? Each major continent has 2 little continents, 2 little islands next to it, okay? Those are called Lingten. The main continent is called a Ling, okay? And for the east, they are called Lu and Lu Pat, which means body and big body. Sometimes the name of the subcontinent is the same as the name of for the main continent. Okay? So anyway, they are the same color and same shape, but smaller. Okay, Lu Dan Lu Pat. What was the color?
White.
White. Cool. Yeah.
Are they separate piles or one?
Separate piles. So we're counting 2 more piles. And you're overrunning the main continent, and then you're going back. Okay, so if the eastern continent is here, when I do those 2 subcontinents, I go to my left and put a little pile, and then I go to my right and put a little pile.
So south and then north.
And right. You can say southeast and then northeast. How's that? But not quite at the ordinal direction. A little bit closer to the continent. We're going to get to the ordinal direction later. So these are kind of hugging the continent. All right. So you go that way, and then you go this way a little bit. You go over the continent and put a pile down, and then you come back over the continent and put a pile. Okay. Lu Dan Lu Pat. We're up to how many? 7. Yeah.
So both of those are 7.
No.
Oh,
They-
each one is separate.
Each one is separate.
So
Yeah.
isn't that 8 then?
No, 7. I like to cause fights by asking it. Okay. Lu Dan Lu Pat. Then what does it say? Yeah. Say Ngayab. Ngayab Shen. Ngayab Dangni. Ngayab Shen. Okay. And that's 2 more continents, subcontinents around Zambu. Zambu. Practically triangles. Oi. God bless. Okay. Then you guess how it goes, okay? You go over the continent, then you come back. So I guess it's what? It's southwest first, and then southeast, okay? So you're going like that and like that. Okay. I'll try to cop some mandalas for the last class, and you can practice a little bit, okay? It's kind of, by the time you get the piles straight, I forgot your other hand, and then everything fell off anyway, which you probably know from experience, okay? Ngayab Dunding Ngayab Shen. Ngayab means, if you've ever seen one, you know what it is, and if you haven't seen one, it's going to be hard to explain. It's a yak tail duster. Okay? Ngayab means yak tail. And I saw one in Mongolia, it's kind of cool. Anyway, it looks like a yak tail duster. And I don't know why they call them that. You know, I spent like an hour in the diner this morning trying to figure out if there's any place in 100,000 pages of scripture where they explain why they're called those things, and there's not. So I don't know. Maybe they look like that or something. I don't know. Ngayab Dunding Ngayab Shen means feather duster and feather duster number 2. Okay. Then what? Say Yonden, Dang, Lam Chogdo. You gotta make noise. Yonden, Dang, Lam Chogdo. Okay. 2 little circular subcontinents. Yonden means shaking, like an earthquake is called sayo. You know, shaking like this. I don't know why it's called that. I couldn't find out why. Yonden Dan Lam Chodo. Lam Chodo means to travel the high path. I don't know why. Okay. Yonden Dan Lam Chodo. Then what does it say? Say Jamin Yen. Dang. Jamin Yen Ki Da. Jamin Yen. Dang. Jamin Yen Ki Da. Okay, Jamin Yen means unpleasant sound, so the subcontinent name is the same as the continent. You overrun the continent, where are we? Here. And then you go back again. Okay. So you're putting the first pile here, and then the second pile here. So we can try to number all these piles. How's that?
Yeah.
Here's 1. Here's 2. Here's 3. Here's 4 is behind Mount Meru, okay? 5. Now which one is 6? To your left or your right?
Left.
To your left, okay? You overrun the continent, then you go back, okay? So here's 6. Here's 7. Which one of these is
Far,
first?
far one.
The far one, yeah. Okay, this is 8. This is 9. My drawing didn't get better over the years, right? Which one is 10? The right one,
West,
yeah.
the west.
Okay. And then you go back to 11. And then which one is 12? The bottom one or the top one?
Bottom one.
Bottom one. Okay.
Oh, because
You
you're
go back
going
to him.
because of the clockwise? I mean, yeah, clockwise.
Why? I don't know. That's just why they do it. Okay. So far, we don't have anything happening on those continents. They're just there. All right. Yeah. Yeah. And this is where we live. Did I say that? I don't think I did. Sorry. We live on Zambu. We live on Kerplop. Okay? All right. We live here. Excuse me? Oh, they don't say anything special. Just other kinds of humans who like to use cows. And then here, they don't say anything special except humans that live to 500 years and hear this terrible sound 7 days before they die. And they say there's a big debate about where do the demons live. And they say on northern continent that there are. Okay. Abhidharma Kosha.
The little continents are the smaller beings or the same size?
The subcontinents, much smaller. Okay. The two subcontinents are much smaller.
But the beings are smaller also?
The what?
The beings are smaller
Oh
or
no, same rice. Oh yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, you put the same size of pile. It's a handful. Okay. Actually, it's not a whole handful because you're kind of, you have to keep grabbing more as you go. You don't put a pile and then grab another pile. We don't normally do that. We normally grab a big pile and we spread it out for a while, milk it for a while. And then you run out and Rinpoche's going on and it's falling over and you're trying to grab another pile. You have to practice a little bit. There's a trick of keeping your thumb, some people never get it. If you keep your thumb there, you can kind of hold it up, But if you keep your hand down like that, it'll keep sliding off. And it's very distracting when there's always, the universe is sliding off. And the other students are trying to visualize everything, and they keep hearing this clanking sound, So you have to be careful there.
Michael, did you do Draminyan Gida?
Yeah, Draminyan Gida. Draminyan is the name of the subcontinent as well as the main continent. Draminyan Gida means Draminyan's brother. Okay. Da means the other half of anything. Like in honorific Tibetan, Kunda means a spouse. The moon is the other half of the sun, and so they call it Dawa. Okay, and Da means the other half of anything, of any combination. So it just means little Draminyan, little unpleasant sound, and little unpleasant sound's brother. Okay. We'll do just a little touch more, and then we'll take a break. Okay. Remember, we're up to what? 13. Okay, I gotta erase all these continents. I hope you don't mind. What's the next thing in your text? Yeah, say Rinpoche, Riwo. Rinpoche, Riwo. Okay. Next you are laying down another full pile, and you're dumping it on the eastern continent, which is what? Lupapo, big body. Okay, you're squashing all those guys. Okay, you're laying a big pile right on top of the continent. By the way, the piles as you go around will start to move in towards the center, and that has some significance, but I'm not going to get into it right now. You're dumping your first load on top of the southern continent, okay, Lupapo. And you're saying, eastern. You're saying Rinpoche Riwo, okay, Rinpoche Riwo. By the way, there's a certain traditional yang means melody or something to the mandala offering, and you have to study it and you have to learn it. Okay, like you shouldn't go to your seichu and grate everyone's ears. So there's a certain lilt to it. It's Rinpoche Riwo. Okay. And you dumped it right here. Rinpoche Riwo means that, and this is where I feel personally that it gets interesting. You are picturing that you are like in this giant thing and you are laying down on this continent literally a mountain of precious jewels. So it's not just like the piles where I work, like you have it like 20,000 diamonds. 20,000 diamonds make this nice little pile about like this. But you're imagining like a Mount Everest that you've created with separate gems, just dumping piles of gemstones. Okay, so you're imagining a whole huge mountain of an infinite number of diamonds, rubies, sapphires, precious gems, emeralds, and you're just imagining like a huge pile of gems, like as big as Mount Everest, that is appearing there. By the way, all these things, although physically you are dumping them with your hand, right? In your visualization, they're supposed to appear out of nothingness. Okay, as you visualize, for example, when you start with that huge zillion-mile wide blue disc, you're supposed to think it comes out of nothing. Okay, you're supposed to see it just pop in out of nothing. Okay, like you're holding this plate in your hand, but it's not like you're supposed to visualize the plate as being that from the beginning. Like in the beginning, you're holding this plate and there's nothing. This Dharmabhadra is very insistent about it. He says, in the beginning you're holding this and there's nothing. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, appears this huge blue disc, zillions of miles wide. And that's all there is. And then suddenly out of nowhere is this white or clear disc on top of that. And then suddenly out of nowhere there's a gold disc on top of that. So when you get to the precious mountain, it's just appearing out of nowhere. Suddenly there's this huge mountain of jewels there, covering that continent. It's 9,000 miles from here to here, okay? The base of that mountain of gemstones is like 9,000 miles. Okay, and you can be lazy and just recite this and not visualize anything like I did for the last 20 years, which is why I have to keep looking at this. Or you can really get it down and you can use it as a meditation. Because later we're going to impute all these things with some kind of sacred meaning. Okay, and it's a lot more meaningful if you know what you're doing. And that's why Dharmabhadra took the time to write the commentary. He wants you to do it right. And then after you get it right, it's a big meditation in itself just to get the visualization right, and it'll help you a lot later when you get to different kinds of teachings where you need to be able to visualize well. So don't waste the time, And personally, I find I have to stop. Okay, I got a mountain there, and then I go to the next one. When you do it with a big group of people and say to you, it's going to be, like that, and you're not going to get it straight. So Dharmabhadra says, once every 2 weeks, once a week, just sit down and do a nice mandala offering. Maybe it's going to take you half an hour to get through 37 piles, But he says sit down at regular intervals and just do it. Do it right. You won't be able to, if you're in the monastery, they'll do like 20 mandala offerings in 30 seconds, They go, wow, wow, wow. And I don't know who's visualizing, but I think, try once. Supposed to do it every day. I know Rinpoche is very, very devoted about it. He really does a nice mandala offering every day. There was a lama in Kadampa times named Gumbawa, who he was visited by Atisha's student, Dromtenje. And Dromtenje saw that his mandala plate was all covered with dust, And he said, hey, you're not offering mandalas every day? It's like a TV ad, right? And Gumbawa says, no, I'm engaged in deep philosophical studies. I don't need this, little ritual things, I'm studying emptiness and the great books, And so Dromtenje says, well, I guess our holy Lama Atisha, who brought all the philosophy there is in Tibet to Tibet, is some kind of dumbhead because he does it every day, and he takes the time to do a nice mandala every day. So I guess you're better than, I guess you must be more advanced than Atisha, right? And so then after that, Gumbawa did it every day. So if Rinpoche can do it every day, I guess it's probably worth doing, Okay. Rinpoche Ro Basam Gishin. Then we go over to here. We're still going, clockwise, right? Say Baksam Gishin. Baksam Gishin. Baksam Gishing, you know, I always heard it wish-giving tree. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it looked like. And Dhammapada gives a very nice explanation, okay? He says it's this huge, beautiful tree. It's like covering the whole southern island. You know, it's huge. It's like, you know, thousands of miles high. And beautiful tree. And the roots are pure gold. The roots that are going into the earth are pure gold. I want to make sure I get it right. Let's see. The trunk is made of pure silver. Okay, solid silver. And he says the branches are lapis, blue jewel with gold in it, gold specks in it. If you've ever seen lapis lazuli. Okay. Then he gets to the leaves, and he says the leaves are made of rock crystal. Okay, pure crystal. Okay. The dhamma, which means the flowers on the tree, are made of book. I have no idea what book looks like. Do you know anyone? I think Art figured it out one time. I have to ask Art. It's one of the 7 jewels. It's a jewel. I think it might be carnelian. Let's use carnelian for now, like a red jewel. Okay. And then it says that the meto means the flowers on it. Dhamma means what?
It's kind of like calyx, you know, the green part.
Dhamma means, I don't know, petals. Okay. Meto means flower. So I don't know what's the difference. Mutig marpo, it's called red pearl. I think it's a rose-colored mother of pearl, something like that. Okay. And the debu, the fruits on the tree, are made of doi nyingbu. What was that, emerald? Remember? I think it was emerald.
I think you said it was essence of stone.
It's called the essence of stone, but I think it's emerald. Yeah, I think it's emerald. It's called this stone, the essence of rock, but I think it's an emerald. Anyway, you can imagine some precious jewels. And the whole tree is made up of these precious things. Okay? The branches, the body of the tree is precious metals, and then it has all these crystal leaves and branches. And baksam means give you whatever you wish. And you have to imagine, you know when they say money don't grow on trees? This is the opposite. This is what we've all been looking for to get out of our jobs. This kind of tree, you could walk up to it and make a wish, and that thing would grow on the tree and fall off. You know, so it says like if you wanted a new blouse or something, you'd go stand in front of the tree and wish for a new blouse, and this beautiful silk blouse would grow on the branch and then fall off in your hands. You know, or like that. So you have to imagine the wish-giving tree is like that. It gives you whatever you want. Okay, and that's the nature of that tree. Okay, what's the next thing? What's going to be covering the Western continent? Rinpoche Ryo Baksam Gishing. Say Dujoi. Pa. Dujoi. Pa. Du means anything you wish for. Jo means the word that describes milk coming out of a cow's udder. When you squeeze it, it joes milk. Okay, it means gives milk. Okay, gives you whatever you do. Jo is the word in Tibetan for what milk does when it comes out of the cow. That's called joa. Okay, so du jo means, wish. What do you call that? What do you call it when the milk comes out? I don't know. Wish-producing cow. Okay, duje ba. Ba means cow.
Wishing milk.
Yeah, wish-giving cow. Okay, what's the cow look like? I'll give you his description. He says the cow's horns are made of diamond, pure diamond. The cow's hooves are made of pure sapphire. And the cow's tail is a piece of that tree. Okay. It's like this incredible wish-giving tree. But it's just even the tail is made of some wish-giving stuff. Okay, it's not just plain old tail. Okay, and then he just goes on to describe that this cow is very fantastic and beautiful and impressive. And okay, but you have to imagine a cow like that. He says the color of the cow is, they call marcer means gold with a cast of red, crimson.
Saffron, we say?
It's gold with a crimson hue. If you're in the jewelry business, it's 24 karat with 4 karat of copper and 10 karat gold. It turns it like a very beautiful gold red color. Okay, Manjushri's color, if you know. Manjushri's that color. Okay, it does say here like a huge pile of saffron, reddish yellow saffron. And it says whatever you wish you can get. Like you could keep milking it, and it would give all day. It would give milk. As much as you needed. If you needed 100 gallons of milk, it would give 100 gallons of milk. If you needed rice would come out of the cow's udder. Whatever. If you needed jewels, you could get jewels. You just wish, and you get whatever you want out of the cow. Okay? The cow just produces whatever you're wishing for. Okay. Cool. All right. On the north. DJ Ba. Say Mama Bai. Loto. Mama Bai. Loto. Mama Bai means you don't have to cultivate it. You don't have to go. These are crops that grow on their own. It's not like people have to go out and dig in the dirt and put a seed there and wait and water it and put fertilizer. It's not like that. They just grow on their own. Okay? Self-growing crops. Okay, Mama Bai Lotog means that. According to the final sections of the 3rd chapter of the Abhidharma, the world, when it began, was a Garden of Eden. At the beginning of this world, everything was like a Garden of Eden. And people didn't have to work. And when they got hungry, they just went out and picked up grain off the earth and just ate it. It was like delicious whole wheat bread, and nobody had to cook it and nobody had to grow it, and it's just there. And you just go out and pick it up and eat it. And that's the idea of Mama Bai Loto. And they say in the scriptures that, everyone would go out in the morning and collect their bread from the surface of the earth and bring it home, and there'd be this big empty spot where they had taken the bread. And then you go there in the evening and it's already grown back. And that's Mama Bai Loto. It's self-growing food. And every time you harvest it, it just grows back by itself within like 5-6 hours. It has already grown back by itself. If you want to hear the bad part, people start to get greedy and say, I don't like walking out to the fields to New Jersey to get my bread. I think I'll take 2 days worth of bread this morning and come back in 2 days, So they start to, and then the idea of ownership starts to develop. And people start to square off areas of ground where they can keep their 2 days of bread. And then they start to build houses to make sure no other people can get their bread. And the idea of ownership begins to corrupt the world. So it's a very interesting, it's a very heartbreaking chapter. It ends in the Dhanuma is a huge weapon created by those people many generations later, which has the capacity to cover the fire and earth, the earth and fire. And they let go of this weapon. Someone releases one of these weapons, and then the entire world is burned. The cities of the earth are burned up. And then there are a few survivors left who were out camping at the time, in some secluded places that weren't affected by this weapon. And they come back to the cities and they see the destruction, and then they start to rebuild Dharma. They have renunciation. They see a whole planet destroyed and they get renunciation, and they come back and start to rebuild the planet along Dharma lines. And then it goes through a whole big cycle again. But anyway, that's Mama Bai Loto. We'll take a break there, and when you get back, we'll do 8 precious things.
When you're visualizing the crops growing,
Yeah.
how do you visualize that?
I'm not very good at it. I remember the Abhidharma. What happens just before these crops, even the crops are a corruption. Before the crops, people can just pick up mud and eat it, and it's some kind of honey stuff that feeds you. And I'm always visualizing the honey stuff. I kind of like that. And I didn't really get to be honest, I didn't get to the crops. But I like the honey stuff. Like that. Like you could just go outside on Bond Street and lick from the gutter, and it would be, no, and it would be like perfectly satisfying, the best meal you ever had, you know. And it's all over. Just pick it up. Yeah. Okay, take a break. 10 minutes. Okay. Okay, we got up to Baksam Gishin, Dirje Pa, Mama Pai Loto, and then it comes what? Say Korlo Rinpoche. Korlo Rinpoche. Korlo means a wheel. Okay, Korlo means a wheel. We're getting into, there's going to be 8 piles of stuff now. 7 of them are the possessions, the important possessions of a world emperor. Like if you have a certain kind of karma, it's described in the Abhidharma in the 3rd chapter. If you do good deeds at a certain rate, you could become president of the world. Like, big deal. But there's 4 kinds of presidents of the world. And the best one is where your karma is so good that everyone comes and begs you to be president of the world. And then the second level is where you have to kind of compete with somebody else, and you kind of have to convince people that you should be president of the world. And then you get down to the bottom of the presidents of the world, and they have to actually threaten people to become president of the world. So anyway, this is a world emperor. It's called Chakravartin in Sanskrit. And chakra means wheel. They have some kind of special wheel. And I always wondered what it was, you know, like he's a wheel emperor, so what? He's got an old inner tube or something, you know. I mean, I didn't know, what's the wheel, you know, what's the wheel supposed to be like? This is the first time I've ever seen a nice description of it. You are visualizing the wheel on the southern continent, okay? And it's not on the continent, it's in the sky over the continent. Sorry, east, yeah. I keep thinking that we should be here. Anyway, eastern continents. And you're going to picture this wheel in the sky over the continent. I'll read you his description of the wheel. He says, in its shape, you should visualize something that is like a flying saucer shape. Okay? It has a rim around the outside, and it's like a space station. It has spokes going out from the inside. Okay, and it's made of pure gold. Okay, it's 500 yojana in width, which makes 500 times 4.5 miles, 2,000 something miles wide. Okay, I just like the description. I think it's kind of cool. He says it blazes with light like the sun, and it has an attract. You know, when you look at it, it's like you're just attracted to it. It's very beautiful. Okay, and he says it has the ability to fly in the sky. In a single day, it has the ability to cover 100,000 yojana. It's 500,000 miles in a single day. The Chakravartin, the king who's empowered by the wheel, and this is the wheel, and his armed forces can get up on this, into this wheel, and the wheel will take them to other lands in order to conduct their business. Okay, so they use this wheel to transport them to other continents and other lands. Okay, and this is described in sutras. It's kind of cool. This is 500 BC. Now I think of a Neil Young song. I don't know. No, dreamed I saw the knights in armor coming. You know, it's just like this spaceship coming. So it really is. You know, when we were translating this, Scott and me were sitting there like, cool. You know, it's a spaceship. It's 2,000 miles wide. It's made of gold. And it can fit thousands of people to travel to other lands, 500,000 miles a day.
Do you visualize it up on its side or?
I'm going to tell you right now. He says, don't be lazy and just visualize one. He says, visualize 1,000,000 of them in the sky. Now I think of Independence Day. I didn't get to see it yet. And you know, visualize in the sky, like the whole sky covered with 2,000-mile wide golden spaceships, okay? And they are covering the sky. Now Nagarjuna, 1700 years ago, he gives a deeper interpretation of these 7 objects, which was followed by a beautiful commentary written by Rendawa, who was a teacher of Jetsongkhappa's, and was a Sakya, was a great Sakya Lama. So I'm going to give you, he says the precious wheel represents the ability to stay aware, especially during meditation. It's the capacity of awareness that as you go through your day and as you conduct your business and as you do anything, you are staying aware of what's going on, especially with regard to the ethicalness of what you're doing. You're constantly examining your activity and evaluating whether you should be doing it or not, and whether or not your mind is in a virtuous state. Are you really in a state of joy about goodness? Are you trying to maintain the state of having a good time, being good, and keeping your vows as you go through the day? That's called Temba. Okay. So he says the wheel, in that flying saucer, in that it allows the king to conquer lands that he hasn't conquered yet, is like that state of mind. Because that state of mind will eventually allow you to overcome all negative thoughts in your own mind. Okay, just staying aware of the content of your mind as you go through your day will help you defeat your great enemy, which is what? Mainly ignorance, but your 26 mental afflictions, okay? Your 84,000 flavors of negative thoughts in the human mind. And if you at least keep awareness and you keep your eye on your mind as you go through the day, this is like the flying saucer of the king that allows him to defeat his enemies, okay? To conquer new lands, okay? That's, that mental function has that quality. Okay? So as you offer that, don't just think of a zillion spaceships over the eastern continent, okay? Try to be aware of that meaning. I think it's going to take all day to do a mandala offering. Okay, next one. Korlo Rinpoche, then what? Say Norbu Rinpoche. Norbu Rinpoche. Norbu means jewel. Rinpoche means, here Rinpoche means riches.
Where do you put the piles?
Excuse me?
Where do you put the piles?
Oh, where do you guess? The first pile was here.
On top of that?
Yeah, now you put it on top of here. Okay. Norbu Rinpoche. Okay, got it, yeah. Norbu Rinpoche, which means the precious jewel. These are the 7 riches of the king. And the second rich? Because the wealth that he has is the precious jewel. I'll describe the jewel for you. He says it's made of blue lapis lazuli. It's cut into a single cut, if you know diamonds. Don't know diamonds. It's 8-sided. Okay. 8-sided jewel. 8 facets around the top, 8 facets around the bottom. Okay. He says it's giving off a bluish light, which it spreads to the distance of 100 yojana, which is how many miles? It's 450 miles, okay. Basically, it gives off light for 500 miles. And they said that light is as powerful as the sun's light. If you come within the confines of that light in the summer, it makes you cool. And if it strikes your body during the winter, it makes you warm. It's some kind of holy light. Okay. And any person who comes into its bounds, who crosses into the boundary of this light, will never get ill again, will never have illness while you stay in that light. And no kind of premature death, no accidents, or no kind of early death. You can't die in the confines of that light, and you can't get sick in the confines of that light. And if you have this jewel, if you possess one, it can give you all your wishes. We already described that process. You just close your eyes and you wish, and it comes out of the jewel. Okay? And that's the quality of that jewel. And the Chakravartin owns these jewels. How many jewels and where are they? Zillions, okay? Covering the sky. Okay? Zillions of these. I mean, you look up and all you see is these beautiful jewels. Okay? Covering the sky.
That's over our continent, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We seem to be blue, you know? Mount Meru is blue on our side. The sky is blue on our side. This continent is blue on our side. We have the blues. And this is blue. It's blue jewels. All right. Now, Nagarjuna, what does he say about the jewel? He says it represents Drowa. Say Drowa. 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 By the way, these are going to be the 7, they're called the 7 limbs of enlightenment. Changju Yamlatu. Drowa means having a good time being good. Okay, it means when you do something good, you get off on it. You enjoy it. You enjoy doing good deeds. I mean, if you ever get close to this, it's very enjoyable. It really feels good. I mean, every time you visit a sick person, or every time you catch yourself lying and stop yourself, or every time you have a good meditation, you're just having some kind of joy and some kind of, you're getting high from it. And that's a goal. And this jewel represents that joy. Okay. He says, this emotion of getting high from goodness will please you as much as King Midas, with his jewels, looking at them and enjoying them and feeling them, and they're like the king's jewel in that sense. Okay? That's why it represents spiritual joy. Okay? Now we're off to the Western continent. So we had Korlo Rinpoche, Nogo Rinpoche. Say Tsumo Rinpoche. Tsumo Rinpoche. Tsumo means queen. And one of the riches of the king is that he has a really nice queen. Okay. And I'll describe the queen to you. She's very foxy, so she's very pretty. Okay. Her body exudes the smell of a lotus flower, utpala flower, some kind of beautiful smell, just natural smell coming out of her body. And when you touch her, you get some incredible bliss, okay, just by touching her. Whichever ling she stays on, meaning whichever continent she lives on, all the people who live there are freed from any hunger or thirst. Okay, by her presence in your land, no one in that land will have any hunger or thirst. And no one in that land ever feels unhappy so long as she is in that land. This is like Dharamsala, if you've ever been to Dharamsala, especially in the old days, when you had His Holiness and his two tutors. You had like the 3 most powerful beings around in one little town, and it was on a mountain, and the whole mountain it was very hard to be, irritable on that mountain. It was hard to be bad on that mountain, because you just felt something going on there. And she's like that. That's her quality. Okay. And she's in the sky, and you're visualizing, Lucy in the sky with diamonds, and all over are these really beautiful queens filling the sky. And I think if you get into it, it's fun, and if you reflect on the meaning of each jewel, it could be you might not want to go to work. Okay.
Is that the 20th one?
Excuse me? Hey, who's counting? What are we up to? Okay. I think most people say we're on 20. Some people say 21. I got 20. Okay. I think we're on 20.
Was 18.
Yeah.
And then Norbu was part
It
of
was
18.
19.
Oh.
No.
It was 19.
Yeah, and we're on 20. The queen is number 20. Okay. I'm trying to see what he said the queen was. Let's see. There's a quality called Shinjang. Say Shinjang. 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 This is a quality of meditation. If you meditate well and you learn to meditate well, you start to get some kind of reaction in your body and in your mind. Xinjiang means, Rinpoche always says it means total pliability or flexibility, like a gymnast, like a really good gymnast or an acrobat, has this ability to put their body into any form. They can make their body do anything. And it's a byproduct of meditation, that you get this Xinjiang. And it creates some kind of physical bliss in your body. As you do it longer and longer, it creates a mental bliss also. So there's two kinds of bliss that come from learning to meditate well. Okay. Then it says, what was it? Dewedora Chapapong, which means, by the way, you break a bodhisattva vow if you get attached to that feeling. It is not a spiritual goal. It's a byproduct. And I'm afraid that in America, a lot of people take it as a spiritual goal. It's not a spiritual goal. You will get certain kinds of bliss happening in your body, and you will have certain kinds of mental bliss, but don't take that to be the purpose of meditation. Because as your body gets older and starts to fall apart, that will go away. And so it's not some place that you can hang on to. It's not a spiritual goal that you'll be able to keep and maintain. It's a byproduct of successful meditation. And you can enjoy it, but don't get attached to it. Don't mistake it for the goal of meditation, which is a whole other story. But that's the meaning of the queen, because she causes the king bliss. Okay? So she represents the quality of, we call it pliancy or flexibility of your mind and your body. If you have Xinjiang, you can make your body meditate for 2-3 hours without moving. And it actually feel good. So we have to get there, right? All right, what do you say after Tsumo Rinpoche? Say Lumbo Rinpoche. Lumbo Rinpoche. Lumbo means like Secretary of State or Minister of the King. Okay, the great Minister of the King. And I'll explain it to you. I'll tell you how he explains it. He's very capable, and due to his wise management of the king's affairs, the king has lots of grain, and the granaries are full, the king's treasure hoards are full. He's just a good manager. Okay. He's incapable of any kind of deceit or dishonesty. He never hurts anybody. He's full of love, and he takes care of the people of the land with great compassion. He's very wise in the affairs of Dharma and politics. He can keep both things going smoothly in the country. And that's the quality of this. And then it says, Gyatse Tongwe Lai Mik. He also possesses the ability, there's a special kind of meditation you can do where you get the ability to see what's going on in California right now, or Britain, or, you can see, you get this kind of clairvoyance. So the minister has this clairvoyance, and it aids him in aiding the country. He's able to manage the country nicely because he can actually see what's going on all over the country. Because he has this special, we call it a meditative eye. Losang Rampa would use a drill and put one here, Okay, not like that. All right. So that's, you got piles of those ministers hanging out in the sky over the northern continent. We got 4 more riches to go, and then we'll be done for tonight. So you go Korlo Rinpoche, Nobu Rinpoche, Tsumo Rinpoche, Lumbo Rinpoche, then what? Huh? Am I on the wrong beat? Yes. Sorry. Say Langbo Rinpoche. Langbo Rinpoche. Okay. This is tricky, and I never got this straight. You're supposed to put this pile in the southeast, which is where, right here. Okay. This is going to be pile number 22. So you've just got through putting 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you did another 1, 2, 3, 4, and now you're starting here.
Over pile number 6, right?
No, you've.
22 is over pile number 6?
So it's between
It's
east and
straight between east and south.
Ah.
Okay? If you looked at the mandala from a top view, you're putting it here. This is east, facing you. This is south. And you say Lambu Rinpoche. I'll tell you the description of Lambu Rinpoche. It's this huge elephant. Okay? The precious elephant. He's supposed to be white and as huge and as wide as the Himalayan mountains. Okay, if you've ever stood at the bottom of a Himalayan mountain, they cover half the sky. They cover the whole horizon. It's really a weird feeling. You know, you feel like claustrophobia because you're afraid it's going to fall down on you. But it covers half the sky. So you think of an elephant like that. 6 tusks, not just 2. Has the strength of 1,000 normal elephants. Has the power to go around Zambaling 3 times in a single day. 75,000 miles. Okay, in a single day. Knows in advance where the rider would like it to go. Can read the rider's mind. And if you took a piece of thread from your mother's sewing kit and tied it around his neck, he's so obedient that you could lead him around with this piece of thread. Okay. Steps extremely slowly because doesn't like to hurt ants and bugs. Okay. And doesn't like to cause any discomfort to the rider. Like very considerate of the rider and of the beings on the ground. Cool elephant, I guess. Has the ability to go in the 3 environments, which means travels equally well upon the water, upon dry land, and in the sky. Okay. And helps the rider do battle in those places. Well, that's okay. And helps you defeat bad things. All right. And then you visualize zillions of those elephants in the sky, covering the sky over the southeast. This elephant in Nagarjuna, as commented upon by Rendawa in the 15th century, says this elephant represents wisdom. Due to its war-making ability. Okay. And the specific kind of wisdom being spoken about here is the ability to understand emptiness, which destroys the normal way of thinking about objects. So as that elephant, as big as Mount Everest, would destroy an enemy force, intellectual wisdom of emptiness, understanding of emptiness, destroys your normal way of looking at things. And your normal way of looking at things causes all your suffering. Okay, we'll talk about that more. Yeah?
What quality did the minister have?
And I don't remember, what was it? Did I say? I didn't say, right? I'm sorry, I'll go back to minister, okay? We're done with elephant, right? Wisdom. Okay. Minister represents the ability to meditate.
Samadhi?
Yeah, samadhi. Because the ability to meditate gives you your desired goals. Like the minister is very good at carrying out what's needed in the country. And just as a minister facilitates all the goals, the national goals, the ability to meditate facilitates your spiritual goals. You know, it's not in itself a spiritual goal necessarily, but the ability to meditate is a platform from which you can accomplish all your other spiritual goals. And I think if you've been in the classes about emptiness, for example, there's a specific samadhi level or a specific meditational level that you have to be able to reach in order to see emptiness directly. And you can't get out of suffering if you don't see emptiness directly. So you have to be able to get to a certain state of meditation called the first samten level, preliminary michok me. It's a certain level of meditation. And if you're never able to get to that level, you'll never see emptiness directly. So the level is like the minister of state. You know, reaching that level of concentration, ability to concentrate your mind, makes your mind suitable to see emptiness. I like to think of it as being able to move at a, emptiness is all around you. Every object in this room has its own emptiness. You can't see it. So there's some kind of velocity difference between your mind and emptiness. Emptiness is moving at a certain rate, and your mind is moving at a certain rate, and apparently they're way out of sync. Or else you'd be aware of all the emptinesses in this room, and that would enable you to escape all the suffering you ever had, mental or physical. So that the point is that meditation helps bring your mind up to a velocity, or down to a velocity, where you can see emptiness directly. Okay? It brings your mind to a state of silence where it's able to reflect the object called emptiness. And as long as it's moving faster than that, it will never reflect that object, and you not only will never see it, you'll never be aware that it exists all around you. Okay? So it's the minister of state is a facilitator, and the ability to meditate is a facilitator. It's not that meditation in itself is, anyone can meditate, and baseball players concentrate very well, boxers, all kinds of people business people, really good business people, have extraordinary powers of concentration. So in and of itself, samadhi is not, it doesn't have to be spiritual. But we're talking about the ability to slow your mind down to a certain state where it's silent enough to see emptiness directly. And that's like the minister of state. Yeah.
The elephant is the elephant they talk about when you take Mahayana precepts, the elephant is destroyer?
Sometimes, yeah. And we're going to get the precious horse, which is Tachangshi Debo, from the Mahayana belt. Which brings us to the next pile. Okay. We got 3 more piles to go, and then we can go home. 23, right? Say Tacho Rinpoche. Tacho Rinpoche. Ta means horse, Chok means supreme. Rinpoche means that precious possession of the king. Okay. I'll describe the horse to you. He's incredibly beautiful and strong. The trappings, the saddle and the girth and everything are made of jewels of the gods. He has, I don't know if you've ever seen in India, they do vermilion drawings on people's hands. Like when a woman gets married, they do these beautiful drawings with this dye on all up the sides of her hands. It looks like a really nice tattoo. And in India, sometimes they'll put this on horses or cows. And this has these beautiful, paisley drawings all over its body. Okay. It's white color. And you have to imagine a countless number of these horses in the sky over the southwest? Yeah, that's cowboy country. Okay. Number 24.
What's that signify?
Oh, good question. Let me check. Dacho Rinpoche represents Tsundru. Tsundru means effort. The ability to work hard to get to your spiritual goals. And Nagarjuna says specifically in this case that if you have a decent amount of effort in your spiritual life, you will gain the quality of clairvoyance. You'll be able to read other people's minds. You'll be able to see objects and events far away from you. And these are not spiritual goals necessarily, they're also byproducts of spiritual life. But you'll be able to read other person's minds and like that. Actually, it could be kind of depressing. Maybe it's good that we're safe from it in normal cases. But if you ever did gain that ability, it would be sort of, it can be a little chaotic maybe. So he says the ability of effort takes you, it allows you to quickly achieve clairvoyance, and the horse is the same way. The horse can take its rider through the sky to wherever the rider wants to go. And in that same way, the ability to hunker down and make good efforts in your spiritual practice will quickly produce in you the abilities of clairvoyance. We're up to what? Dacho Rinpoche. Then this is the last. I think we got 7 jewels. This is number 7, right? Say Makban Rinpoche. Makban Rinpoche. Makban means general, like army general. Okay. Rinpoche means it's one more possession of the king. It's a good general. Okay. And I'll read you the text. It says, he never hurts anybody. We were trying to figure that out, right? I don't know. Anyway, he never hurts anybody. The scriptures sometimes talk about someone who's very good at displaying the ability to do violence without doing violence and without hurting anybody as a means of non-violent accomplishment of goals. Okay. Never hurts anybody, never does anything which is not keeping in the Dharma, keeping with the Dharma, in keeping with the Dharma. Never gets tired in body or mind. Okay. Carries out the king's commands without being told. Reads the king's mind. Knows the art of war perfectly. Knows when to advance, knows when to take his stand, and knows when to retreat. Okay, those 3 qualities. With the 4 great forces. In ancient India, there were 4 great forces, like the Marines, Air Force, Navy, Army. Okay, it was. What was it? Charioteers, Elephanteers, cavalry, and infantry. Okay, these are the 4 great, the classic armies of ancient India. Okay, what does it represent according to Nagarjuna? Is Dangyam. Dangyam means the ability to put your mind into a neutral state. Neutral state. And there's different kinds of Dangyam. There's Sorwa Dangyam, which means between happiness and sadness, to keep your mind between that. There's Duche Dangyam, which means the ability not to get attached to your friends and hate your enemies. And that's the kind of Dangyam that's being talked about here. It's the ability to keep your mind in a neutral state, or a equal or just state, to where you are thinking of everyone around you equally, with equal concern. And you don't spend more time on the people you like and less time on the people you don't like. But every person you meet is a new person that you are quite as willing to help as you were willing to help anyone else. And you don't play favorites. Your mind is totally equal. Neutral. If you have this ability to stay neutral, you'll be able to accomplish your goals in a better way. And they say, therefore, it's like a general who is able to deploy his forces in any way he wishes. He has control over how he deploys his forces. He's a very excellent general. So his forces go and are deployed exactly in accord with his wishes. And if your mind was able to stay neutral and not be attached to some people and repulsed by other people, if you were able to stay neutral towards everyone, you would be like that general. That's the example of the general. Okay, last thing tonight. Say, Terchen Boi, Pompa. Terchen Boi, Pompa. Okay, der means a deposit of anything, like a gold mine is a der. A uranium mine is a der. The ocean is sometimes called a der of water. So it means a huge deposit of anything, usually nice stuff. Der chimbo means huge deposit. Bumpa means a vase, a vase or a vase. Okay, I don't know how to say that. And I'll describe it to you. It's made of gold. Okay, it's a huge vase made of gold. It's studded with various jewels. It has this kind of shape like this. wide body, a thin neck, and then the neck comes over like, you know what I mean? Like, if you've seen the one that Rinpoche uses for initiations, like that. Okay, it has the lips come over so you can grab it and you can bang it on people's heads. You know, if you're ever in New Jersey, check it out. And then it has a support at the bottom so it can stay up. Okay, and out of the middle of the vase is growing Baksam Gishing. What was Baksam Gishing? We already had
A
it.
wish-fulfilling tree.
Yeah, wish-fulfilling
Tree.
tree. Okay, I like to think of it as a super Christmas tree. You know, like it's made of crystal and ruby and lapis and all these jewels. And it's like you get up on Christmas morning and you look at it and you just wish for what you want, and it grows off the tree and falls off into your hands. And that's the nature of this tree. So imagine this huge golden vase, and if you've ever been to an initiation, they use a tree, you know, a tree branch. So there's this tree branch coming out of it, and it's a wish-fulfilling tree. And anything you want, like money, just, you know, $100 bills just growing off, and you just pick them off, okay, like that. And that's a wish-giving. That's the great vase. Okay. Also, if you want to get fancy, it has a little apron here of silk of the gods. Okay, it has a little. If you've ever seen one that's used in rituals, you know. If you haven't seen one, then come to New Jersey sometime. You can see one. And inside the vase, you can imagine that this vase can hold anything that any human would ever wish for. Okay, so in the belly of this vase is every single object that any person could ever wish for. Okay. Like, just don't be cheap, okay? Don't be chintzy. This is all mental, okay? So you can make it as nice as you want. You don't have to think about what you can really afford. You know, you can imagine in that inside of that vase every single object that everyone on this planet might want. It's like Santa Claus's bag, you know? And it's small, but it fits every object that everybody might want in that vase, okay? And you can just pull it out and give it to them, whatever they want. And then you have to imagine the whole sky filled with these objects, okay? So we've covered how many piles? Oh, I gotta tell you what it means, what it stands for.
And also the direction is, on that one, the direction is?
Northeast.
Northeast.
Actually, it doesn't cover this one. He only does the 7 jewels, okay? Because it's the 7 riches. So he doesn't get to this one. Nagarjuna doesn't talk about this one. So again, that's all for this time. We'll finish the next 12, but I wanted to again talk about what you're doing, you know. And we talked a little bit about it last time. And this is the attitude that you should have while you're doing it. It's not that you have to buy into this weird geography of this 1700-year-old text. It's not the point. You have to imagine a universe, you know, 4.5 times 10 to the 60th miles wide, and you are building up, these things are just appearing out of nowhere on this plate in your hands. And you have to imagine in your hands every precious thing in the universe. And you're just slowly going through every precious thing that you're aware of. And I like to say it's like your high school girlfriend, okay? Like if your first big crush you ever had, or boyfriend, whatever it was. And there's this feeling you have when you're really infatuated with somebody, which is that as you walk down the street, you're like imagining how they would look in every piece of clothing you see in the window, or how you would, you know, you walk by Cartier and you, mentally you're buying every jewel there and you're imagining how it would be like if you put it on them and offered it to them. You know, if you've ever been infatuated that way, you know, walking down Fifth Avenue is like everything you see, you're imagining what it would look like on the person that you have your crush on, you know. And that's the state of mind. Mandala offering, the beauty of the offering and the clarity of your visualization is directly related to how successful your spiritual life is going. Okay? It's a measurement. It's a gas meter, like a gas tank meter of how well your spiritual life is going. Because when your spiritual life is going well, you feel this incredible gratitude towards your Lama. You feel this incredible infatuation with your Lama. It's just like your first high school girlfriend. And if your spiritual life is going lousy and your practice is lousy, you don't think about giving your Lama anything because you just don't feel any gratitude. You don't feel any special feeling towards them because there's nothing to be thankful for because you don't have anything. And so those kinds of people, it's a test. You can use it to judge how your spiritual life is going. If you don't feel like giving anything to your Lama, and then when you walk down Fifth Avenue, it's not like you're thinking, what if I gave him that? Or what if I gave her that? How would she feel if I gave her 10,000 of those ruby necklaces? I mean, how would that look on my Lama? Him or her, doesn't matter. But if you're not thinking like that, it means your spiritual life is lousy. And you don't have anything to thank them for, and so it doesn't occur to you to bring them anything, because you just don't feel anything, because you didn't get anything. So I'd say you could use a mandala offering as a test of your own spiritual life. The more you are succeeding in your spiritual life, which is what your Lama wants from you, and we talked about it last time, the ultimate mandala offering is your own practice. If you're succeeding in your spiritual life, if things are starting to happen because you're meditating well and you're keeping compassion, you're really trying to practice compassion. If you really try to practice compassion, and if your meditation is going really well, and if you're starting to understand emptiness more, your life things start to happen, like revolutionary things start to happen in your life, and extraordinary emotions and extraordinary events are happening all the time in your life because your practice is pure. Then you'll feel some kind of infatuation with the person who gave you that, and you will start to, every time you see something beautiful, you'll be, checking on your credit card, let's see, can I do another $1,000? I mean, it's like, you won't pull out any stops, if you really get the result of spiritual practice. If you get these classes and you start actually doing it, you'll just be infatuated the same way that you were with the guy or girl in high school, And every time you see something beautiful, you're out surfing, right? And you're watching the sun go down and there's all this blue water and you just automatically be wanting to offer it to your Lama, So try it. If you don't feel like offering a mandala, or if it feels like a chore, like to Gumbawa, right? Then there's something screwy with your spiritual practice. Then there's something, you got to go back to the basics and put it back together. If mandala offering begins to feel like an obligation and like a pain, I got another half-hour mandala offering I have to do, Then I got to do that stupid dakye. I mean, if it feels like an obligation, you ain't getting it. So try to understand what's happening with it. It's exactly the same feeling you had with your first high school girlfriend, and you wanted to give her all the world, and everything you saw, you blew all your money like all the time, and you're always borrowing money so you can offer them things. And it comes from gratitude. It comes from having gained something, and it's a good test. So try to get to a point where the mandala offering is like to someone that you're just in love with, and you just want to give them this precious thing. And then the last thing I'll say is that, obviously the final thing to do before you offer it is imagine it as a Buddha field, as a Buddha paradise, which means nobody in your hands, you got the whole wide world in your hands, and, nobody within the confines of your two palms is suffering. There is no headaches, no stress, no anxieties, no lack of self-esteem, no problems, no bad bosses, no poverty, no illness, no AIDS. Every beautiful thing is happening between your two palms. So just before you offer the planet, change it, okay? Don't offer this lousy planet, you know? I mean, make sure everything in the planet is beautiful and pure, and every being there has reached enlightenment, and you're offering that to your Lama, okay? Okay, so we'll stop there, and we'll meditate for like 2 minutes, okay? Because I know you like to go home. And just try to picture the world like that. And then we'll do one final prayer with a mandala. What kind of mandala?
Gratitude.
Tangrak. I'll say Tangrak. Tangrak is like, thanks a lot. You know, and that's a mandala.